could tell it was going to be a very hot day, but it was like a muggy hot, really sticky, oppressive, muggy heat. Yeah, it was already there. It was already there at 8 o'clock in the morning. There's people having barbecues and music playing, but they were also drinking. And that, to me, at 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:30, whatever it was, that's a bit how you're going.
And I just remember seeing a lot of people, and a lot of guys actually, and a lot of young guys with sort of like beer and this was like, 8:30 in the morning, with cases of beer, doing the over the shoulder, and off they went. And I was like, it was kind of looked a bit odd from there.
I call myself half surfer, half photographer. Living on the beach and having that experience with that sort of tribalism, that localism, like this is our turf, you don't belong here. It sort of piqued my interest, and I was particularly keen to sort of pursue it and see where it led. So that's why I ended up going down there on the day to Cronulla.
I had a bit of a look around, and you do end up with like a sixth sense when you're burning the job for a fair while. I turned to the boys and I said, this is going to turn to shit by lunchtime. You watch me. There was lots of people there at that time in the morning. They come in from everywhere.
Yeah, there would have been, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 people there, and the road was sort of blocked off. It looked like a big street party, like an Australia Day street party. There were people with Australian flags and, little Australian tattoos on their face. Eskies full of beer and people sitting on the back of their utes. And it wasn't until the grog sort of started to kick in and the sun got higher in the sky and people started, taking their shirts off, and it started to get that real, kind of a menacing, primal atmosphere to it. There were a couple of sort of ringleader type people there, and there was one guy who had a loud hailer, and he was standing on the back of a car, and he was sort of lifting the mood in the crowd and getting, cheers, and it brought everyone together so that everyone was focused on one thing and focused on what he was saying, which was words to the effect of, this is our beach, this is Cronulla.
And we don't need these Lebanese or whoever wants to take it away from us.
All of a sudden, this whole crowd was just flooding, chasing, because they'd been riled up into this frenzy. I was just moving with the crowd. At the centre of it was this guy with the loud hailer, and then there were two young Middle Eastern guys. It was really getting ugly, like there was a bad feeling. Everyone focusing on these guys, and you could tell it only needed one little, spark to go off, and these guys had nowhere to go. From a distance, someone threw a bottle. That was the cue for everyone to just jump in on these guys. I found it really strange to see people in the crowd there smiling and enjoying this spectacle, seeing two guys being attacked, two defenceless guys being attacked and completely outnumbered. Soon after that, someone called out that there were some lebs up at Cronulla station on a train.
I can just remember watching them running like lemmings, looking for a fight or whatever. They just seemed to be looking for something to happen, and I said, I think we'll pull the shutters down. I'm just getting a bad feeling.
There was helicopters everywhere. We didn't when we hit our helicopters, we recognized it's something not right. people start to come out, up from the beach. Thousands, I'll tell you thousands. They were saying, like, you know, we don't want wogs in our area. Go to the place you come from.
Get rid of them! Send them home!
It's something building and building and building and make it like, you know, make people start to hate each other.
Game on, Lemon!
You could actually hear what sounded like a stampede. And to be honest, I thought something had actually happened at the beach. Either, who knows, like an explosion or something happened at the beach and people were running away to get away from it. And I remember seeing a couple of people that I knew and I'm going, what's going on? What's everyone doing? They're going, oh, they're going down to the train station. They're here. And I've gone, oh, what does that mean? Like, you know, and I thought, what do you mean they're here?
And there was whispers going through the crowd of a trainload of Lebanese arriving at Cronulla station. I was taking pictures and I started to fall behind. And by the time I got to the train station, I was just, you know, amazed by what I saw. A lot of them were focusing on one carriage. There's two Middle Eastern-looking fellas. 10 seconds later, a couple of guys just ran up the stairs into the train and started bashing these guys. There were bottles coming flying through the window. The rage was unbelievable. I kept taking photos. This guy is directly in front of me, getting kicked, getting bashed, punched. That's why I just had to put the camera down. I just started yelling at these guys, swearing at them. You know, get the F off him, you're gonna kill him. They paused, they looked up at me, saw I wasn't really a threat to them, and just kept going. Luckily, up the stairs came Sergeant Campbell, old school, with his baton in hand, and just whacked everyone.
I knew the only way to clear the carriage was to give them good reason to leave. But that's when I started striking people with my baton. Anyone that got hit by it obviously didn't want to be hit by it again. If we hadn't have got in there and I hadn't taken the action I had, those two young blokes would have been either seriously injured, very seriously injured, or possibly even killed.
They wanted blood, and that's what they got. And these guys were just so happy with themselves for what they did. I rang up my boss, rang up my picture editor and said, mate, it's all happened. I had to send the pictures through for them to believe how bad it was.
To me, the most unsavoury part of it was that it was race-based. I mean, to just single out one race as being, you know, the be-all, end-all of bad people. You know, I mean, it's just not right. It's just not correct.
I thought that everyone, like a lot of people, were going to get killed that Sunday. I honestly did. I thought there was going to be so much drama, and there was a lot of. Imagine, like, me as an Australian woman watching on the news, F the wogs and go back to your countries.
The ones that, you know, stand out to me was fuck off Lebs, and, you know, I think the other one was we flew here, we grew here, you flew here. That was like, you know, what's that mean to me? Well, I didn't fly here. You know, I didn't. It was shocking, and I think it showed. It was scary. You know, was I going to walk in the streets and someone's going to say, "Hey, what are you doing here? Go back to your own country." I've never had that. I grew up here. This is my country. My parents were out here way before I was born. I haven't known any other country like I've known Australia. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm Australian. I'm nothing else.
I've got a Lebanese background, but I'm as Australian as anybody. And it was like somebody was destroying something you'd been a part of creating. You felt like, I felt like I had made a contribution, and I felt like I belonged, and I felt like I loved the Shire. And to have all of these individuals kind of unravel what it was, and it was really quite confronting, and it felt like something of yours was being vandalised.
All I remember, there was no escape. It was on the news, it was on the radio, it was on my dad's phone calls, we were all talking about it at school. I can't remember when I heard it, I just know it happened, and I just know it happened fast and it hit home hard.
I remember that time actually feeling really sad, like just thinking, this is not my country. This is not what I love. It was like shameful. It was just shameful. I've been really lucky. I've got really good relationships with the students, and it's developed on respect and it's developed on trust. So when they were coming to me to speak to me, and I'd speak to them in a playground or whatever, they would actually ask me for advice. Sir, can you clarify this? I don't understand. Why is this happening? All you can do is say, look, do not get involved. This is not something for us. It's now going to be dealt with in other ways. We can fix this as a community. We need to look at ourselves.
Went to 6 o'clock news, watching news as per normal, and I was just shocked what's going on at Cronulla. And it was just unbelievable. It was just like, these people are not Australia. I mean, it was very hard to absorb that this, what was happening, what I've been seeing on the news, is actually 20 minutes away from where I live. It was like, no, that can't be right. It was like, where'd this come from?
When I saw the news crossings and saw what had actually happened on that day, I was horrified, but I was extremely surprised. I just did not think that this could happen in Australia. I just did not think that we would have people like this, or people would create such a scene, such a debacle of coming together. You know, it's one thing to show what Australia Day is, to be proud of your flag, but to turn around and suddenly became, this was just an out-of-control racist mob who were just escalating the whole cause because they wanted a cause. All they needed was a catalyst, and they had the catalyst of saying that these two lifesavers that had been set upon, and that's the way it turned around. It was a bashing of Australian pride, almost.
It definitely gave rise to a new mode of expressing these underlying racist values. What previously might have been just seen as patriotic, now there was a new undertone to it, and I think a racist undertone. Certainly whenever I see that, the flag or the Southern Cross in a tattoo or a bumper sticker, I have this preconceived notion that whoever's flying that has these values which are not akin to what, the Australian flag used to represent for me.
When we were around the TV watching what was unfolding on TV on that day, we saw a girl wearing a hijab, Aussie guys ripping it off, and she was getting spat on and kicked and whatever. That was disgust and anger, and that was, at that point, that was when guys were literally sort of punching walls, like, we can't let this happen. It was as if it was a personal attack. It was as if my sister was on that TV. As night fell, the mood in the air had escalated. Texts were being sent left, right and centre.